Hello. Today I'd like to show you how to access some key and useful teacher reports in the Oasys application RTI-CEIS module. The first thing you'll want to do is log in to Oasys. The easiest way to log into Oasys is to access Zangle Web, as you would if you were a teacher. And when you log into Zangle Web, you're going to see a link for Oasys Web. And you're just going to want to enter your username and password, which will be made available to you. And after you've logged in, as a teacher, you will see a home page, and you're going to find an RTI CEIS tracking button. Click on that. After you've selected RTI CEIS, you will see another menu under the Teacher tab. The first thing that we're going to look at is under General Academic, that being the student profile. Click on the student profile link, and this is where you can find information about individual students in our system. We're just going to look at student test today for the example, and all that you need to do in order to find a student is look for their last name and search for it. A pop-up window will open up. If you do not see a pop-up window, you may need to allow your browser to accept pop-ups. But when you see the pop-up window, you just select the student that you're interested in. And so I want to look at student test, who is currently in the 3rd grade. As a teacher, you will have access to all of the students in your class rosters and their academic history, as well as any other information that is stored in Oasys. Then you'll note that there is a begin date and an end date for the information that you're looking for. The begin date starts at the student's birthday or earliest date of enrollment in the district, and the end date automatically defaults to the end of this school year. You can choose how you want the report to appear. You can use this drop down to ask the report to be ordered by date, and you can also ask it to sort in a variety of ways based on academic measures. Then you simply click on Generate Report. And what will display will be information about the student of issue that you were interested in looking at. So you can find out demographic information, the home phone number, whether or not the student is taking classes, if the student is currently enrolled in a class, and who the instructor is. In this case, it's Oasys staff. If the student is receiving any services in Oasys, that will appear, as well as service notes. If the student has any academic interventions that have been entered into the system, the information about those academic interventions will appear. Any behavior incidents that have been enrolled or entered into Oasys will appear, as well as any behavior interventions. What's not noted on this particular report is assessment information, because this test student does not have any assessment information entered into the system. But our students will have their most recent assessments for the last 3 years entered into Oasys, WKCE, Access, MAP, local assessments like the Rigby Running Records, Plan, and Explore, and ACT will be loaded into the system. And so when you go to look up a student, you should be able to get a very good profile of the student for your use. If you'd like to print it out, you can look at the printer-friendly format, click on the printer-friendly format, and it will generate something that you can send to the printer and will print out on 8.5 by 11 paper. That is the student profile report. It's a very useful report for just finding out basic information about students one by one. We're going to go back to the RTI menu by using the Back to RTI menu button. Please note that the system does not function well if you click the Go Back through it within the browser. So always use the buttons within the application in order to navigate through the application. Under General Academic, those of you who teach at the elementary school will be familiar with the student score entry screen. This is where you would enter any local assessment data relative to our assessment calendar. At this time, only elementary teachers are entering assessment data through Oasys. You can access an intervention list, and this intervention list has all of the interventions which were approved by the RTI committee through SDW, and it's simply just basically a catalog of the interventions that exist in the system if you were to be entering academic interventions. Other reports that you'll find useful at the start of the year would be things like identification by class. A scatter graph by class report is something that will show you the student's performance on an assessment relative to the class that you're looking for. So I'm going to run a report now to demonstrate how it's done. For you, you should see only the school that you teach at. If you teach at multiple schools, you'll have the ability to select different schools, but you will only be able to select the school that you're teaching at. And I'm just going to go to Prairie, and I'm going to select a third grade classroom and an assessment that a third grader might have. Actually, because I'm looking at third grade, if I was looking at this in the fall, I might be interested in how my students did in the second grade on the MAP test in the spring. So why don't we look for grade 2 MAP math writ? So how did the second graders do? How did my current third graders do on the MAP test in the spring? I'm going to ask it to sort. I'm going to ask it to tell me information and sort by the percentile ranking. And I'm going to ask for the spring date. So what I've just told the system is I want to know how my third grade students, or actually Lori's third grade students, performed in the spring of 2013. The cut score for the percentile automatically fills based on what has been established as a norm, and that is the 40th percentile, but you can change that if you want. I'm simply going to click Generate Graph. And what will appear is a student identification report for every student in Lori's class. And the red line is what we established as the cut score line. So all the students who are at or above the 40th percentile, it kind of draws a line showing you where those students fall throughout the classroom, but also where the student of interest, this is where the student's name is, where that student's score falls relative to all of his peers in the class, his or her peers in the class. The blue area shows you the norm range for this particular assessment, and you can see that at the bottom of the norm range is at the 25th percentile, and the top of the norm range is at the 90th percentile. So this is where this student falls relative to the norm range, as well as all of the other students who are in the classroom. As you scroll through the report, it changes based on the student. The green dot moves based on the student. You can also open this report in Excel. And when you click to open this report in Excel, you'll basically get something that you can download and open up, which gives you a list of your students and their scores, as well as the graphical reports. Because it's on my, it's asking me to enable me to edit it. And now I'm in an Excel file, and here is the Excel spreadsheet with the students' scores on it. I'm not going to save this report. So that report was the scatter graph by class report. I'm going to go back to the RTI menu and show you two other reports, and then we'll be done. The comparative graph by class report has a very similar interface to the other which we just ran. Again, your school will come up. This time I'm going to run one at Horning. And because I'm asking for a middle school, I have a whole lot more classes to have to choose from. Let's just do a Reader's Workshop course. And I, again, want to see, since I'm in the fall and I'm looking for 7th graders, current 7th graders, I'm going to want to do, well, how did these current 7th graders do on the 6th grade reading map test? So I'm going to go find 6th grade reading writ. I'm going to ask to see the percentile again. Actually, let's ask to see the writ score. Again, I'm going to select a date. I could do any date for these students, but we would want their spring of 6th grade. There is no cut score set in here, so let's say I want to look for a rich score of a 218 is going to be where I'm going to set my threshold. It's a little low, but I'm going to click Generate Graph. The system takes a little while to generate the report. And here's the report. The score of 218. Here the red line shows you where I put in the cut score. The district average for the 6th grade, wow, I was pretty close, is a 218. The school was a 216. And the class was a 217, and the student here, this student, was a 228. So it shows you relative to the district and the school and that in the class that he's in, how this student did when he was a 6th grader. It too can be exported to Excel. The final report I'd like to show you today is the identification graph by class. Exactly the same interface as we saw before. This time I'm going to go to a high school. And I think I'm going to look at a ninth grade class. Let's see if I can find English 9. There we go. I'm going to go look for an English 9 course. And I'm going to look for the reading score for these students when they were 8th graders in the spring on the MAP test. So these students would have been 8th graders. And I want to know what their percentile ranking was in the spring of last year. And I'm going to ask for this report to be ranked, and that's going to put the order of the students from lowest score to highest score. And then I'm going to just generate my graph. And once the report is run, this is a very nice report because it gives you a scatter graph of your entire class and their scores, as well as the student names in order associated with their scores. So you can get a real good picture of what the classroom looks like based on prior year's test scores and the 40th percentile or whatever it is, whatever percentile rank you put in here. It appears that none of the students in this class were below the 25th percentile, so the scores don't go below the 30th on this. You can also open this in Excel and it will generate a spreadsheet with all of this information on it as well. Those are the most important teacher reports, the most useful teacher reports that you can find in Oasys at this time that will be helpful for you at the start of the year to get to know what the MAP results were for students coming into your classroom from last spring's testing season. Thank you for your attention today. Have a good week.